That summer, the marbles rattled like distant stars on a sun-warmed plank. Grandmother Lila's courtyard opened onto a lane that climbed toward the harbour, where boats breathed clean salt on their ropes, and the air tasted of basil and lemon stones. Cicadas hammered out a patient chorus, and the sea hummed faintly beyond the thin line of elms, as if it balanced the town with a quiet, unhurried hand. We children sat in a ragged row on the warm wood. The chalk circle drawn tight in the dirt, my knees singed bronze by the sun, and my sleeves rolled up to reveal elbows scraped from climbing the lilac tree. I was the smallest then, a pocket of nerves and questions, listening more than speaking, learning the world piece by piece in the company of cousins who moved in laughter like birds moving through branches. Grandmother kept the rhythm of the days with small rituals, each one a thread in a larger, softer tapestry. In the afternoons, she would sweep the tiles and wipe the wood and set sweet tea to cool in a glass pitcher that steamed tiny beads onto the table, while the bread sang in the oven and the iron kettle hummed out a tune that sounded almost like a lullaby in a language only kitchens know. We played marbles most days, moon and sun and star and pebble, a plain green marble I clung to as if it were a leaf I could protect from the wind. The rules drifted like a whisper. Flick with the thumbnail, aim for the chalk-marked circle, knock the others out and claim the marbles you toppled as your own. The circle was our small universe, the plank our horizon, and the heat a friendly ghost that watched us with a smile we didn't understand yet. I learned the look of a room when a game could turn on a single touch. Finn, 2 years older and all swagger, would shoulder past me to take the best shot, his fingers sure as a soldier's. Mira, with hair the colour of honeyed straw, could bend a marble's path with a tilt of the head as if she knew the river's secret currents. And Mimi, who counted the blue thread in Grandmother's apron and tucked it into the pocket of my memory, felt every throw bend the air around me, as though the very breath of summer depended on how well we played. One afternoon, heat spilling from the sky and making the plank glow like a seam of copper. Finn's flick sent Moon skimming through the circle and off the plank, where it rolled toward the edge and disappeared into the wavy dust of the corner. The air tightened in my chest as if someone had pulled a string too taut. Moon wasn't the fanciest marble, but it had become a little star I kept in my palm. It felt cool and right in my hand, as if it belonged there. My breath snagged, and I thought I might cry, and then I saw Grandmother's eyes rest on me with a soft gravity, like a lighthouse in a fog. "Breathe," she said. Not loud, just there, as if all I needed was the slow rhythm of her voice to keep from spilling over. She stepped closer, and with a quiet, deliberate motion, nudged Moon back toward the circle and away from Finn's eager fingers. Not with a scold, but with a steady, unspoken lesson. You take a step back so someone else can have their turn. You let a gentle moment live its life. I felt a warmth spread through me, not from the sun, but from a hand on my shoulder, and a gaze that said I was seen, that I mattered, that a simple game could teach mercy as surely as any sermon. Finn's scowl softened. Mira's mouth curved into a small, knowing grin, and Grandmother smiled, a tiny, almost imperceptible lift of the corners of her lips that felt as if it held the harbour and all the bread cooling on the rack and the entire afternoon's weather in her heart. We played on, the circle closing and reopening around the plank as if the day itself were breathing with us. Moon stayed in hand for the moment, and I learned a new kind of quiet strength, the strength to hold a thing gently, to let someone else shine, to carry the memory of a small mercy long after the moment has passed. That day, I did not know I was being taught how to be a grown person, I only knew that the air tasted sweeter after mercy, that the chalk smelled faintly of chalk and sea salt, that grandmother's apron strings fluttered like small flags of calm in a world that could be bright and loud and sometimes unkind. In the hours that followed, the house grew cooler as the sun dropped, and the kitchen began to glow with the glow of the stove and the soft crackle of butter in a pan. We ate bread warm from the oven, and tomatoes that tasted like summer's own riot of colour, drizzled with oil that shone like liquid copper in the light. The voices around the table were low and contented, and the day, which had seemed almost too bright to bear, settled into a sleepable peace. That memory has followed me through years that wound like the harbour's own waterline. Slow, sometimes rough, always returning to a familiar shore. I spent my early adult days chasing the bright points of victory, promotions, the pride of competent hands, the sense of proving myself in rooms filled with other busy, bright people. And yet the image of moon in the palm, the tilt of grandmother's head, the way Finn's gesture transformed from menace to forgiveness, kept nudging at me like a tide that never forgets the edge of the sand. If I was quick with a plan, I learned to pause and listen. If I was sure of my own direction, I learned to leave space for someone else to find theirs. I learned that strength often looks like restraint, that mercy is not weakness, but a steady act of care that anchors a person when they might otherwise drift away in their own impatience. In the years that followed, I found that the cure for many hurts is not triumph, but tenderness, the kind of tenderness that survives a busy life, that travels across kitchens and hospital wards and the small quiet rooms where old people keep letters and photographs and the scent of rain on dusty earth. The ritual of that summer, the porch, the marbles, the circle, grandmother's calm, became a map by which I walked the wider world. A road that wound through friendships and heartbreaks, through the careful tending of others, through the simple discipline of showing up with decency and patience. I learned to be a person who remembered the warmth of a hand on the shoulder and the way a shared smile can disarm a fear, even when the day has taken on too much heat and too many people think only of themselves. Now, older and slower, I hear the same distant clack of marbles when rain taps the rooftop and the house grows suddenly quiet. The walls, pale and patient, hold on to the photographs of the summer, Mira's laughter, frozen in a wide grin, Finn's stubborn pride, softened by the same mercy that softened my own heart, the loop of grandmother's shawl as she moved through the room with a bowl in each hand, and a soft word for everyone. The harbour's edge is a memory I can walk to in the mind. The way the light shifts along the water at dusk, the way the boats tilt, just enough to catch a last breath of wind. The world has changed its clothes many times since then, but the texture of that afternoon remains unchanged. The heat, the salt smell, the glassy coolness of a favoured marble in my palm, the comforting sounds of kitchen and sea and laughter, the knowledge that a life anchored in small kindnesses outlives the thunder of big words and loud applause. I am grateful for that one summer, for the day when mercy walked into a game and kept its promise in the hush between one moment and the next. I am grateful for grandmother's quiet strength, for the way a simple gesture could reweave a life that might have unravelled under the pressure of pride. If time will peel away the bright things, It will also lay hold of the dull and ordinary, and show how much